Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, friends. If you love discovering hidden treasures in everyday places, you're in the right spot. Because the humble 1941 Lincoln wheat penny may look like just another old copper coin, but under the right conditions, it's anything but ordinary. Let's set the scene. It's 1941. The United States is teetering on the edge of entering World War II. The country is in the midst of change. Factories are beginning to shift their focus to military production. The economy is gearing up for the war effort. And amid all of this, the U.S. Mint is quietly producing billions of coins for daily use, including the classic Lincoln cent. Now, the Lincoln wheat penny had already been around for more than 30 years by that time. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was a major shift in American coin design, the first U.S. coin to feature a real person and not a symbolic figure. It was a bold move that set a new standard in coinage design, and it hasn't left circulation since. Fast forward to 1941, the wheat penny still bears the familiar features that millions of Americans had come to know. On the front, there's Lincoln's profile, sharply gazing right, with "In God We Trust" etched along the top. Liberty is written on the left, and the date, 1941, is stamped on the right. On the reverse, two tall, curved wheat stalks wrap around the words 1 cent, United States of America, and E pluribus unum at the top, Latin for, out of many, one. The coin is small. Simple. And in 1941, it was everywhere. More than 887 million of these pennies were minted that year in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can identify the mint location by looking under the date on the obverse. No mint mark means it came from Philadelphia. A small D indicates it was minted in Denver, while an S marks San Francisco. With so many made, it might seem like there's nothing rare or valuable about a 1941 wheat penny, but that's where the story begins to get interesting, because in the world of coin collecting, rarity isn't just about how many were made, it's about how many survived in exceptional condition. It's about minting errors, unique variations, and those elusive coins that seem untouched by time. The vast majority of 1941 Lincoln cents were used for decades. They clinked through vending machines, sat in drawers, were tossed into fountains and buried in the pockets of millions. And that means most of them are scratched, worn down, corroded, or damaged. A regular, circulated 1941 penny? It might fetch a few cents at best, but the rare few, the ones that were never spent, never handled, and carefully preserved in near-perfect condition, those are the ones that make collectors' hearts race. And let's not forget about errors. That's right, mistakes during the minting process can transform a regular coin into a one-of-a-kind treasure. In 1941, some pennies were struck with double dies, where the lettering appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the die. Others may have off-center strikes, die cracks, or planchet flaws. These coins aren't damaged, they're different. And in the world of collecting, different is gold. Now here's another detail to watch out for: full, sharp details, especially in Lincoln's coat and hair, and the wheat stalks on the reverse. When these features are completely crisp, the coin is often graded at a high level, especially if it maintains that beautiful original luster. Coins are professionally graded using a scale from 1 to 70. A penny graded MS-60 is considered mint state, uncirculated but possibly dull. But the higher you go, MS-65, MS-66, MS-67, the rarer the coin becomes. By the time you hit MS-68 or higher, you're in elite company. That means the coin has survived for over 80 years in practically flawless condition. And here's where it gets serious: there are fewer than a handful of known 1941 Lincoln wheat pennies that have been graded this high. Add in a mint error, or a red, original luster tone, and you're looking at a true collector's dream. A coin so special that it stands out among nearly a billion others. Think about that for a moment. Out of 887 million coins, only a small handful are worthy of being called near perfect. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but that needle could be worth more than most people make in a year. Now picture this: you're at a garage sale. You see a jar of old coins being sold for next to nothing. You spot a worn-out 1943 steel cent, a few modern ones, and then, a 1941 wheat penny. It looks clean. Sharp. Uncirculated. Could it be the one? Maybe. Maybe not. But that's the thrill of the hunt, and for the people who've done the hunting, who've sent these coins off to be graded, and who've watched the bids rise at auction, they've seen what a 1941 penny can truly be worth. So here it is. The moment you've been waiting for. One of these rare, uncirculated, nearly flawless 1941 Lincoln wheat pennies, preserved perfectly, graded professionally, and possibly exhibiting a rare mint error, sold for an astonishing $56,480. Yes. 1 cent. One coin. Worth $56,480. Still think your spare change is just spare change, so the next time you're at an antique shop, digging through old pocket change, or flipping through your grandfather's coin album, keep your eyes peeled for that 1941 wheat penny. Because if you find the right one, you might just be holding a little piece of history, and a whole lot of value. Today, we're diving deep into the incredible story of the 1937 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that holds far more than its face value. This is not just a piece of currency, it's a time capsule, a collector's prize, and possibly, your next big discovery. Let's rewind to the world of 1937. The Great Depression was still fresh in America's memory. Franklin D. Roosevelt was president, jazz music floated through radios, and the first feature-length animated film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, was about to hit the big screen. Families counted every penny, and the value of 1 cent stretched much further than it does today. These little coins weren't just spare change, they were essential, and while all of this was happening, the U.S. Mint continued quietly producing a coin that had already become iconic. The Lincoln wheat cent, originally introduced in 1909, the Lincoln wheat penny was a bold change in American coin design. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure, Abraham Lincoln, the revered 16th president, whose face was selected to commemorate his 100th birthday. For over a century now, this design has been part of daily life, but the 1937 version stands out in a number of fascinating ways. Let's take a closer look. On the front, we see the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. It's a strong, calm expression, one that reflects both leadership and legacy. The words "I and God We Trust" arc across the top, while liberty and the date 1937 appear on the left and right sides of the bust. Flip it over, and the reverse side offers a design that every American once knew well: two symmetrical wheat ears bordering the bold letters 1 cent and United States of America. At the top, the Latin motto "E pluribus unum," out of many, one, reminds us of the strength found in unity. This design, known as the wheat reverse, was used from 1909 until 1958, making these coins particularly desirable among collectors today. But how many 1937 wheat pennies were actually made? That year, the U.S. Mint produced over 300 million of them, spread across 3 facilities: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a small d; and San Francisco, marked with an S. That means finding a 1937 penny isn't rare in itself. Millions are still out there, but here's the twist. What makes the 1937 Lincoln wheat penny incredibly valuable isn't just its age, it's the condition, the mint errors, the rarity of variations, and sometimes, a perfect storm of all three. Let's start with condition. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale. A heavily circulated 1937 penny might score somewhere in the teens or 20s. It's worn, dull, and common. But the further up you go, MS-60, MS-65, MS-67, the fewer examples exist. Most pennies from the 1930s have been used, pocketed, dropped, rubbed, and cleaned over and over again. Now imagine finding a 1937 wheat penny in mint state condition, bright red luster, sharp details, and no wear. That alone could raise its value into the hundreds or thousands of dollars. Add in a rare mint variation, or even better, a minting error, and the price skyrockets. And yes, there are known errors from 1937. Some coins feature double dies, where parts of the lettering or numbers appear doubled from being struck incorrectly. Others may have die cracks, off-center strikes, or anomalies in the metal content. These mistakes, rare, unintentional, and unrepeated, make collectors go wild. Because in numismatics, flaws create fortune, but what really sends the price through the roof is a combination of elements: a rare mint error, preserved in pristine mint state condition, certified by professional grading services, and bearing full original red color. Here's the kicker: out of hundreds of millions of 1937 wheat pennies, very few have ever been graded at the highest levels with all the right features. These are the coins that end up in major auction houses. These are the coins that investors and elite collectors battle over. These are the coins that make headlines. So now you're probably asking, how much could one single 1937 penny be worth, if it's in nearly perfect condition, with a rare mint error, and full red luster? Let's take a moment, think of it, a penny that has traveled nearly a century without losing its shine. A coin that survived the decades in untouched brilliance. A coin so perfect, it defies the odds. That's not just a collectible, that's a treasure, and one such penny, yes, a 1937 Lincoln wheat cent, graded in top mint state, with the right rarity, the right error, and the right story behind it, sold at auction for an absolutely jaw-dropping $96,780, yes. You heard that right. A 1-cent coin, worth $96,780, still think your penny jar is just filled with junk? The truth is, coins like this don't appear every day. But they do exist. And maybe, just maybe, one of them is sitting in an old coin folder, a dusty drawer, or even in your very own collection. So next time you're sorting through change, flipping through an old box, or browsing a flea market table, take a closer look. That old penny in your hand might be more than copper. It might be a piece of history. It might be a hidden fortune. Today, we're taking a deep journey into the world of one of America's most iconic and misunderstood coins, the 1947 Lincoln wheat penny. A coin that might be in your pocket right now, but in the right condition, could change your life. Let's go back to the year 1947. The world was healing. World War II had ended just 2 years earlier. Soldiers had come home, families were rebuilding, and the United States was entering a new era of growth and prosperity. It was a year of transition, from hardship to hope, and amid this new chapter in American history, the U.S. Mint was quietly continuing its duty, producing coins for a growing economy. Among those coins was the humble Lincoln cent, still bearing the same proud design it had carried for decades. The Lincoln wheat penny, introduced in 1909, was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, President Abraham Lincoln. A revolutionary design for its time, the Lincoln cent replaced the Indian head penny and set a new standard for American coinage. By 1947, the design had become a familiar part of daily life. On the obverse, or front of the coin, you'll find a right-facing portrait of Lincoln, thoughtful, resolute, and timeless. The inscriptions read "In God We Trust" along the top rim, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1947 on the right side, just beneath his chin. On the reverse, the coin still displayed the classic wheat ears design, 2 graceful stalks of wheat curving along the left and right sides. Between them, in bold capital letters, 1 cent, United States of America, and the timeless phrase "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one. Simple. Elegant. And now, over 75 years later, more valuable than anyone could have imagined. In 1947, 3 major U.S. mints struck Lincoln wheat pennies: the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark; the Denver Mint, marked with a small d beneath the date; and the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S. Combined, these mints produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents in that year alone. So how can a coin with such a massive mintage be worth anything more than face value? The answer lies in survival, scarcity, and condition. Let's break it down. First, we must understand that while millions were made, the vast majority of those pennies were heavily circulated. They were used to buy candy, gum, newspapers, passed through thousands of hands. Most ended up scratched, worn, and dull. They were everyday money, not museum pieces, but a rare few survived in near-perfect condition, coins that were never spent, never mishandled, and stored carefully in coin albums or bank rolls. These are known as uncirculated coins, and their condition is key. Collectors grade coins using a 70-point scale. A well-worn coin may score in the teens or 20s. But a mint state coin, one that still shines with its original red luster, shows no wear, and has razor-sharp detail, might be graded as MS65, MS66, MS67, or even higher. Here's where things get interesting. Only a tiny fraction of 1947 wheat pennies have been found in these top conditions. And the higher the grade, the rarer, and more expensive, the coin becomes. But that's only part of the story. Some 1947 Lincoln cents are made even more valuable by minting errors, mistakes made during the production process. These include doubled dies, where parts of the design, like the date or lettering, appear doubled off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned, clipped planchets, where a small portion of the coin is missing due to a cutting error, and die cracks, raised lines from breaks in the die used to stamp the coin. Each error creates a unique variation, a one-of-a-kind coin that collectors crave. Combine an error with high-grade preservation, and suddenly you're looking at a coin that stands apart from millions of others. And there's more. Color also plays a role. Uncirculated Lincoln cents are often graded as red, RD, red-brown, RB, or brown, BN, based on their original copper color. A full red, brilliant 1947 penny is especially valuable because it shows the coin hasn't been exposed to air or moisture for decades. So when you take a 1947 penny that is in perfect mint state with full original red luster, possibly containing a rare minting error and certified by a professional grading service, you've got something truly special. Now imagine holding that penny. A piece of history in your hand, born from the post-war optimism of 1947, preserved for more than 7 decades, and now, potentially, worth a small fortune. And that brings us to the question you've been waiting for: just how much could one of these 1947 Lincoln wheat pennies be worth today, in top-tier, high-grade condition, with all the right features? Well, the record is staggering. One such 1947 penny, mint state, brilliant red, and virtually flawless, sold at auction for an astonishing $53,830, yes. 1 cent. 1 coin. 1 collector. And a final hammer price of $53,830, and you thought pennies were just spare change. So next time you're rummaging through an old coin jar, flipping through your grandfather's coin collection, or simply looking down at the sidewalk, don't ignore the pennies. Especially the old ones. Especially the wheat pennies. Especially the ones from 1947. Because hidden among them could be a treasure. A forgotten coin that's been waiting decades to be discovered. A tiny piece of American history that might just be worth more than you ever imagined. If you've ever wondered whether your pocket change could contain a hidden gem, this is the video for you. Get ready to take a fascinating journey through time, into the heart of American history, numismatic mystery, and serious collector value. Let's start with the year 1952. The world was changing fast. America was still riding the post-World War II economic boom. Families were buying their first cars, watching the rise of television, and sending their kids to school in brand new suburbs popping up across the country. Harry S. Truman was president, and the Cold War was making headlines. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was continuing a tradition that had started decades earlier, striking millions of small, humble copper coins bearing the face of one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history, Abraham Lincoln. The Lincoln wheat penny had already been circulating for over 40 years by 1952. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, this iconic coin was a game-changer. Not only was it the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure, but it also showcased a design full of meaning. On the obverse side, we have Lincoln's right-facing profile, quietly dignified. Above his head reads "In God We Trust," to the left is Liberty, and to the right is the date, 1952. Below that, in some versions of the coin, you might notice a small letter, D for the Denver Mint, or S for the San Francisco Mint. If there's no mint mark, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and the reverse side shows 2 wheat stalks arched gracefully around the words 1 cent and United States of America. At the top, the classic phrase E pluribus unum, Latin for, out of many, one. This reverse design, known affectionately as the wheat back, was used from 1909 until 1958 and remains one of the most beloved coin designs among collectors. So if the 1952 penny was part of such a widely circulated design, and produced in the hundreds of millions, what makes it so special today? Well, here's where things get exciting. It's true. In 1952, the U.S. Mint struck over 1 billion Lincoln wheat pennies across all three major mints. So yes, these coins are not exactly rare at first glance, but in the world of coin collecting, the magic is not just in how many were made, it's about how few remain in perfect, pristine condition. And sometimes, it's about the tiny details most people never notice. Let's talk about condition first. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with MS, mint state, grades representing coins that have never entered circulation. They've been perfectly preserved, no scratches, no wear, just that bright original shine, sometimes called mint luster. Most 1952 wheat pennies you'll find in change or old collections are brown, worn, and dull. But a genuine mint state red 1952 penny, with every detail sharp and clean, is an entirely different story. These coins are exponentially more valuable than their circulated cousins, and they're much, much harder to find. And then, there are the errors. That's right, sometimes the most valuable coins are the ones that were born a little different. Errors made during the minting process can turn an ordinary penny into a collector's dream. Some of the most sought-after 1952 wheat penny errors include double die obverse, where the lettering, numbers, or even parts of Lincoln's face appear slightly doubled off center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned when struck, leaving part of the design missing. BE errors, small die cracks between the B and D in Liberty, forming what looks like the letter I. Repunched mint marks, RPMs, where the mint mark was accidentally stamped more than once in different positions. These aren't damage, they're mint-made mistakes. And when you find a high-grade 1952 penny with one of these errors, you're looking at a coin that might be one of a kind. Even rarer is a coin with full red luster, zero handling marks, and certified high-grade status from a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These are the coins that end up in high-end auctions, featured in elite collections, and written about in coin magazines. Now here's where it gets really personal. Imagine walking through a flea market and spotting a box of old coins for sale. You reach in, pull out a handful of pennies, and spot one dated 1952. You set it aside. Later, you check the date, the mint mark, the color. It's red. Really red. You notice something strange about the mint mark. Maybe it looks doubled. You send it off to be graded. Weeks go by, and then, the results come in. It's mint state 67 red. With a double die. Verified. Certified. You are now the proud owner of one of the finest 1952 Lincoln wheat pennies in existence, and the value. You might want to sit down for this, because one such 1952 Lincoln wheat penny, graded at the highest levels, with immaculate condition, deep original luster, and a rare error, sold at auction for an astounding $40,530. Yes. A penny. Just one. Worth $40,530, and the best part? That coin was found by someone who simply knew what to look for. So take this as a reminder, never underestimate the coins in your pocket. Never ignore the pennies hiding in jars, drawers, or boxes. Because if you're lucky, and if you know the signs, that 1-cent coin could be worth a life-changing amount of money. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating piece of American history, the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it might just look like your everyday penny, but don't be fooled. This little copper coin holds stories from the past and, if you're lucky, could be worth far more than its face value. Let's set the scene, the year 1956. America was in the midst of a booming post-war economy, optimism was high, and the culture was shifting rapidly. Rock and roll was taking off, television was becoming a household staple, and families were settling into the new suburban dream. Meanwhile, the United States Mint was quietly producing the pennies that would soon become an integral part of everyday life, including the beloved Lincoln wheat penny. The Lincoln wheat penny, first introduced in 1909, is famous for featuring the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a first for U.S. coinage. the first time a real person was honored on a regular issue coin. The reverse side features 2 stalks of wheat framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, a design that remained in circulation until 1958. In 1956, the penny was minted at 3 locations, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with the latter 2 featuring their respective mint marks, a small D or S beneath the date. The Philadelphia mint pennies have no mint mark. With the combined production reaching into the hundreds of millions, it's no surprise that many 1956 pennies still exist today, but what really sets certain 1956 Lincoln wheat pennies apart is their condition and rarity, which can drive their value to unexpected heights. While millions were made, finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is a challenge. Over time, the vast majority of these pennies were used for everyday transactions, causing wear and diminishing their collector appeal. Collectors prize coins graded in mint state, or MS, conditions, especially those with original red luster, known simply as red pennies, because they still retain the bright, coppery sheen from the mint. These are far rarer than the more common brown, circulated pennies, which have oxidized and lost their shine over decades of handling. Beyond condition, certain mint errors and varieties from the 1956 penny series make some coins especially valuable. These errors include doubled dies, where letters or numbers appear doubled, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks, where the mint mark was stamped more than once in slightly different positions. Such errors make these coins unique, and collectors are often willing to pay a premium for these rare variants. Take for example the 1956 doubled die obverse penny. This variety features clear doubling on inscriptions such as the date or the words, Liberty and, In God We Trust. Coins with this error can command considerably higher prices, especially if they are well preserved. Now, how much can these coins be worth? That depends on many factors, including condition, mint mark, and whether the coin has any errors or unusual characteristics. A well-preserved 1956 penny with a mint mark from Denver or San Francisco, in a mint state red condition, can be valued well beyond what you might expect. And the ultimate prize? One exceptional 1956 Lincoln wheat penny, in flawless, pristine condition, with its original copper red brilliance, possibly featuring a rare mint error, has sold at auction for the astonishing sum of $39,550. It's amazing to think that something as small and commonplace as a penny, which we often overlook, can hold such incredible value. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, coins like the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny remind us that history, rarity, and condition are powerful factors in turning simple change into treasure. So next time you dig through a jar of old pennies, pay close attention. That unassuming 1956 Lincoln wheat penny might just be worth more than you think. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed learning about this fascinating coin, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more rare coin stories, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a valuable discovery. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your collection growing.